This is Kit Simons, and you are listening to the Fulham Focus podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Fulham Focus podcast. What a result, coming straight after a spirited performance, particularly that second half. Morgan, Baldo and I are here to discuss a fantastic away point against Spurs. Although we arguably could have nicked it with some more shots on target, a couple of faster passes and our general heads up, nothing is going to take away how well we fought to reclaim a point this evening. We're all here to discuss it with a previewing of some blue filth on the side. Let's go.
Fulham.
Right, guys, and to all our listeners listening right now, we've gone straight into a pod recording after the match, so we don't really have much of a schedule. I was meant to be writing one, but I have no nails left because I was quite stressed out for the last dying embers of the game there. I'll go straight to you, Morgs, with this one. What did we learn?
We learned today that we have got a team of fighters, and I think we knew that to a point, but I think today really showed it. I think all the build up to this game, all 48 hours of build up to it, as you know, it was one of those things where you weren't quite sure what we were going to get, but you knew for a fact that regardless of how little time we had to prepare, we knew that Scott was going to get them up for it, make sure we played our game. If there was any tiredness, they didn't show it. And I think any after effects of playing on Saturday, but at the same time, the players who hadn't played may or may not have had COVID coming back in. I just think it was such a brilliant performance all round. And I think, we've got a lot to be proud of that team because we have such an awful record, A, in London derbies, B, essentially away from home, C, coming back from 1-0 deficits, especially in the second half. And in that second half, Jose's tactics are very much part the bus, defend that 1-0 lead. And so many times they've been bit in the arse by that. And there's a lot of Spurs mates of mine who just sort of like say, oh, for God's sake, not again. But we see teams like that who have, these tactics that sort of so often don't work against other teams, and yet somehow they beat us. This time, we managed to do what other teams had done. We snatched that point. We richly deserved that point. And it was, yes, their goal was crap defensively, but our goal was brilliant offensively. And I think Lookman's going to take a lot of credit. I think Cav is going to take a lot of credit for getting in there. And, there were a couple of negatives, but I don't really want to focus on those. Really? I may have an opinion on Kamara's at the end, but at the end of the day, I think, we came out with a point, and we should be incredibly proud of the fact that we fought back, and we are not out of this relegation race at all. I mean, it's not even half done this season, however long it's been going for now. No. And I think
there's only 22 games left.
Huh? How many?
Yeah, there's only 22 games left.
Is there?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of games left to be played, and I've got to say, the coverage from Amazon on this game, there was a lot of statistics being thrown out, and last time we were in the Premier League, we'd only got throughout the whole season got 5 points away from home. We are now on 6, which is very good, and also statistically, we're not very good in second halves of games. Fantastic in this second half, I thought. I mean, absolutely phenomenal in my opinion. But Baldo, I'd like your opening thoughts, mate, on just general vibes of what we learned and how you're feeling.
Oh, is it my turn now? I'm sorry, I never want to interrupt a Morgan rant whenever he's in full flow. Always a pleasure to listen to.
It wasn't a rant. It was a lovely, glowing sort of
soliloquy. Yeah. I'll tell you what I learned. I'll tell you what I learned a lot more than Will Oakley's doing at the moment because he's one of the people that's skiving off school at the moment. But yeah, in all fairness, I don't think we learned quite a lot because what did you expect from a Fulham team? In this format of the Fulham team. We know how Scott Parker likes to set up. We know that we're very good defensively. We know that it's not going to be the most thrilling of games in terms of an attacking sense. We had our chances, but for the most part, it wasn't really until we got our equaliser that you thought, actually, we might be able to nick something here. It was always going to be a bit of a slugfest. We kept them out for as long as we could. There needs to be some questions about the goal that we conceded. Should the two centre-backs, Anderson and Adebayo, I think it was. Someone needs to be picking up Harry Kane. I'm not quite sure who gets the most blame, as it were, but someone needs to be doing better there. Areola, as always, was fantastic. Ali McCoy was saying on the commentary how brilliant he was. He made some incredible stops and some very decent stuff as well. And then, our problem has always been going forward. We know that we can keep the score down. It's just whether or not we can get something at the other end. I'd say we probably earned a 1 from the game. I don't think we necessarily deserved. We created enough chances. Abubakar Kamara had his thing at the end. Loftus-Cheek could and should have done better. But overall, I don't think this is really anything that we learned anything new. This is the Fulham we have. We should just get used to it at this point.
I don't know. I think they showed. Yes, we've come up in games and we've shown a bit of grit and stuff. I think we showed a lot of fight in this. It set us apart a little bit from some of our other performances.
Yeah, but we've been showing fight in the but we've been showing fight in the games against Liverpool and to an extent Man City. This isn't a new thing, is what I'm trying to say. It's not totally.
I think we're just more effective at it. I think
I'll take that point. Yeah, more effective. I'll take that.
Whereas we've had 5 draws on the bounce now, which if you look at stats and see 5 draws, you think that's pretty uninspiring. But at the same time, we've had some hard games and we have dug out results. We haven't lost them, which is the most important thing. And yes, we've got 2 very difficult games ahead, but a point away at Spurs is nothing to be sniffed at. Who's to say we can't get, I know an empty cottage isn't quite the same, but 2 wins against, Chelsea and Man U. It's unlikely, but at the same time, there's no reason why we can't with that attitude.
Well, tonight seemed unlikely. And, Leicester seemed unlikely. Liverpool seemed unlikely. And I just feel like this team, there's just a nice air about this team that I thought that there's so many players in this game today who had such a fantastic game. I thought Harrison Reed was brilliant. I thought Tosin Adebayo, apart from some wobbly legs at the start of the second half, I thought he was outstanding. I didn't realise how much actually Joachim Andersen likes to go forward. He really likes to sort of do a bit of a Tom Kearney sort of move every now and then and try and create something in the final third, which was really good to see. But I've just, we haven't lost a game of football since the 5th of December. That's progress, and it's good. And I know we could be better going forward, but that's why the January transfer window's here. And look, speaking of players that we could get and what we're lacking thereof, why don't we just start with the opening lineup? Any complaints or anything noteworthy of you? Baldo, give me your thoughts of the opening lineup.
Similar to what I've been saying, we know what the Scott Parker system is. So once we know what players are, 100% full, there's questions about Kearney and Mitrovic, were they injured? So those names were always going to be sort of 50-50. But for the most part, as I've said, we know what the Scott Parker system is. So the fact that we were back to the likes of Aina, Anderson, Adebayo, Anthony Robinson, Reed, and Gita, the usual suspects, didn't really surprise me at all. A little bit surprised that Lookman was on the bench, again, given his effectiveness so far this season. But again, for all we know, he could have been one of those players that had COVID and, only got back to training a day ago, so wasn't 100% match fit or 100% fit. For all we know, that could have been the case. It could have been the case with Kearney and Mitrovic, for all we know. There's still a lot of secrecy going around the Fulham team. But for the most part, wasn't totally surprised by what we saw. The only minor one was the fact that we had Josh Onuma back, because I know that the 25-man squad rule thing has been slightly up in the air this season. That was my only surprise to see. Oh, wait, he's now eligible to come back, which was a welcome surprise.
I think looking at the lineup, you kind of have to just assume Scott's picking his best team. I don't think he was resting anyone in particular. I think, obviously if Mitro did have his injury from Saturday and stuff, that's fine. Kearney, I think we have to assume he's one of the players with COVID, same as Lamina. The other ones obviously just came back, and I think that's probably why Lookman didn't start, if he only just came to training in the last couple of days. It's a weird time. I think we have to take all our lineups, with a slight sort of, assumption that we are picking our best available players. And I think, it was a good, solid team. I thought, again, there was. I'm just trying to think if there was anything that I thought at the beginning, if there was anything out of place. But then I thought, Loftus-Cheek playing the false nine role didn't surprise me. Having sort of, Bobby and Cav either side of him. I mean, I thought Bobby Reed was brilliant again tonight. The guy is playing with so much confidence. And, even
he's kind of when he got above.
And he's when he got shifted to right wing back, I was like, oh, that's a bit of a shame because I would have actually stuck him up top and taken Loftus-Cheek off. But even still, playing right wing back, he's just so full of energy, and it's great to see that even at the end of a game, he's still going on and on and on. He's a proper Duracell bunny, and I think you need players like that.
What did you think of Loftus-Cheek in that false nine position? I mean, I thought at the beginning he looked like he was getting on quite well with it, but as the game went on, chances were getting missed, a bit of sloppiness here and there. What were your thoughts on Loftus-Cheek's role in this game, Morgs? And I'll go on to Baldo afterwards.
I didn't think he was great, but I didn't think he was bad. I think he's not clinical, and that's in terms of the false nine role. I'm not really sure. What you're supposed to do in that particular thing. You're supposed to maybe hold up the ball and sort of bring in the two wingers. But he used his strength, and that was his best asset. I mean, he almost scored that scissor kick in the first half, which would have been great. But
would have been
at no point, even when he sort of was put through by, was it Lookman, I think, or whoever it was, he didn't look like scoring. And
really?
I think he adds something to the game, but I don't think from a, on a personal, level for him, he's playing very well. And, okay. I think, I stick by what I said after the QPR game is that, he must be adding something that Parker sees that we may not, but he needs to actually sort of maybe deliver something a lot more visible soon because, right now, if it's all subtlety, I'm not quite sure where that, what it's adding to the whole team overall.
Yeah. Baldo, what are your thoughts? I mean, do you think we ended up looking like we could actually score in the first half? I mean, we started quite brightly, I thought, but there was just that lack of just finishing and clinical edge at the end, wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And Loftus-Cheek was, one of the main culprits of that. Back to the initial question, Loftus-Cheek. I saw some people on Twitter saying that this was the best game that he's played for Fulham, and there are some people that were slating him. I think there are enough arguments on both ends for it. I still don't think we know what Loftus-Cheek's best position is, and honestly, I don't think Scott Parker does at this point as well. He's tried him at like centre forward type. He's tried him out wide. He's tried him number 10. He's tried him. We still haven't quite got round to. As much as I say we know what the Scott Parker system is, Loftus-Cheek is just that one player that we still don't know what's going on. So I think the sooner that we work that out, then the sooner he'll be able to click and become that player that, Tony Khan called world class when we signed him, which he can be. There's a reason he's got so many England caps, and I think he went to the World Cup in 2018. There is a player there. We're just not seeing it at the moment.
Do you think he knows where his best position is?
I think he does. And personally, and again, this is just me. I think he's in a sort of second striker, number 10, sort of playing in an ideal system, similar to, he'd be Zoltan Gira playing behind Bobby Zamora, if you want to make a direct comparison. He'd be, Mitrovic up top, feeding balls, playing away with Ruben Loftus-Cheek. That's where I think he should be playing. But obviously, the system Scott Parker has, you don't really have that kind of player with those sort of roles available.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, the 34th minute, you had that cheek chance that just went wide, the sort of half scissor kick sort of thing. But our 5-3-2 sort of really cramped Tottenham Hotspur in the middle of the park. So it reminded me very much of the Everton game, where they were relying very much on their wing-backs and wingers to create the space and get the better of us. So they had Aurier and Reguilon just causing a lot of havoc. I thought Aurier was all over Robinson a bit too much throughout the game, but I think he's a quality just above him at this moment in time. But yeah, and that's what led to the Harry Kane goal. I mean, we should talk about this because it's sort of divided opinion if it's a brilliant goal or if it's just not, if Anderson's just not close enough to him. I mean, I know that in the West Ham game, Harry Kane scored an identical goal to this with a set-up from Reguilon, and there were defenders marking Harry Kane as much as we have liked Anderson to mark him, and Harry Kane still scores a chance header like that. So we can't know for sure, but it did seem a bit like Harry Kane could have had a picnic basket on his back during this moment, wasn't it, Mo?
Yeah, it was a classic Kane run. I think it shouldn't have been a surprise. I don't think it was. I think Anderson had his back to him, whereas Adebayo should have probably been tracking him because he could see where the run was coming from. That's how I saw it anyway. Anderson was looking at the ball. Adebayo was looking at Kane, and neither of them, he was right in between the middle of them. It was a great header, don't get me wrong. And Areola had no chance. But I think it was definitely one of those where Adebayo's lack of, Premier League experience you can tell. He was brilliant for the rest of the game, but that one particular moment where, England, arguably top striker, just saw the gap and went for it, and he's not missing those. And fair play. Yeah. It was a great goal. It was a great cross by what's his name, Reguilon, kind of funny Italian name, Spanish name, whatever it is. And so you can. It sounds like a sauce. That's that's what I call it. Yeah. But he, So I think it was a good goal. But I think Adebayo was probably the one who, if we're going to blame anyone, he was at fault because he was definitely the one who had eyes on Kane.
Yeah, absolutely. I hinted at earlier. There's someone has to take the blame. I think, given your analysis, it probably does go just to Adebayo. And even though he's inexperienced in the grand level of things, and even like the Adebayo Anderson partnership, it's still quite young. But I don't think it should be used. We can't. I don't think we can say, they haven't got used to each other yet. I think they've played enough games together where they can get that understanding. Not quite Hangland and Hughes level, or Kit and Coleman level, but I don't think we should be using they haven't played enough together as a reason or as an excuse just yet. That's the sort of thing that they really should be dealing with at this stage of their career and their time at Fulham.
All right. Okay. Well, in response to this goal, we still sort of played well, but we didn't have as much possession as the second half. You had Kenny Tete, was quite effective. I thought had a good first game back in the Premier League. Obviously, he played against QPR, but he made some fantastic runs. A bit selfish with one of the shots. I think Bobby Reid was crying out for a pass there. That would have been a really nice. There are a few moments. We'll talk about the main one where we wish that someone made a bit more of a pass, but the second half. It was a mad first few minutes end to end, and then we ended up just playing a lot better. We had more possession, and I think really sort of made the most of us, as you alluded to there, Morgan, with our possession style. Any thoughts, or you thought, and before the amazing substitution, is there anything you noticed about our play in the second half that made us better?
I think we're able to play our possession game because Spurs let us, and Mourinho ball allows that to happen, and we. Obviously, we took advantage of it in the end, but it was just the fact that we had the ball, and with the ball at our feet, we're a great team. And I thought Tete played well. I thought Robinson played well down the flanks. I thought, Cav was okay, and Reid was brilliant. And, in the part of midfield, I thought, Reid did a quietly very solid job in there. And
very much so, yeah.
Was, Anguissa, was just his usual self. First half he gave the ball away a couple of times in the space of about half a second, but he was generally pretty good. I just think we were we're a good footballing side, and compared to other teams in and around where we are in the league, we play some great ball. We had some very talented players. Obviously, we started off the season like we had no idea what football was, but now we're sort of getting going. We know how to play the game. And I think that's, that second half was, yes, we were playing against Spurs, who are a top 4 or 5, whatever team, but they allowed us to play our game. And we don't look like a bottom 3 team. And,
we don't. That's the thing.
Well, it is, isn't it?
We just look really fucking tidy on the ball, I think. Even the commentators were saying it. I just think I'm very proud to look at this team and how well we have the ball at our feet. I think we like you said, we don't look like a team that's going down. I think it is between us and Brighton, potentially Newcastle coming up. We just looked very good. Anything that you thought, Baldo, about our play in particular in the second half?
No, I think Morgan summed it up, but it does go back to the point that I and many of us on the pod have been making recently, most notable Matt Dom in the team chat, is that all these performances are good, but we need to start turning them into results. This draw, on the surface of it, is a good draw, but if we then don't go and turn it around and get the wins against the likes of West Brom and Brighton we've got in a couple of weeks, then we're going to look back. It's not going to mean much. So whilst we are doing well, we're doing well, we still need to be doing a lot better, in my view.
All right. Okay. Well, look, Kenny Tetic came off in the 67th minute, just getting a bit tired, I think. So we put Bobby Reid back in the right wing back position. This is where Parker gets his bullets because he brings on Ademola Lookman, and this is where the game really changed. Completely much so. I feel like Højbjerg, grumpy beardy bollocks, whatever his name is, who just was making quite a lot of mincemeat out of he was making quite a lot of mincemeat out of Loftus-Cheek towards the end. He's a brute, isn't he? But yeah, him and Loftus-Cheek, he had him in his pocket a little bit throughout the game. So I feel like this was a very good move. And Ademola Lookman just changed everything. The electricity he provided. It just shows you how much we missed him, doesn't it, Morgs? Wasn't he fantastic for this game?
Yeah, and I think, given the fact that he may or may not have been out with, pandemic-based illness, it was great that he was sort of on the bench to then come on and, be the ultimate kind of impact sub. Yeah. So the way his style of play is so different from, what we had before. The ball sticks to his feet, which is great. He's a bit like a sort of wing version of Anguissa, but I like that ball. That ball that he put in for the goal. We were talking about it after the QPR game. I said that we needed a winger who could swing balls in after a couple of touches. He did exactly that. And it was just a beautiful ball. It was pinpoint. Not even Cav could miss that. And it was, in all fairness, Cav got into the right position and got in between the defenders and, flicked it in. But that is Lookman's strength, is that he can change a game because he is that talented. And I really hope he can keep this up for the season, because there is obviously a very promising footballer in there. When he was at Everton, it went off the boil a bit. And he's come to us, and we've done it before with players, not for a while, but we've done it before. We've bought players who may have been on the brink of their, peak, as it were, and we've had some great seasons out of them. And I think if, we do stay up and we do keep Lookman, then maybe he can sort of, maximize his potential with us. And I really, maybe I'm getting a bit overexcited based on one cross, but at the same time, he is definitely a good player. And if he keeps it up, if he stays with us and we stay up in the Premier League and he keeps on, maybe there is an England cap in there for him.
I'll say one thing. A lot of the talk after the whole West Ham penalty debacle was, he's got to come back and, I think it may have been you, Jmac, say he's got to either. He has a debt to pay. He's either got to score the winner in a game we were destined to draw, or get a draw in a game we were destined to lose. He has to redeem himself. I think over the course of, ever since that game, he has absolutely done that. I think we can sort of, not totally forget the West Ham penalty incident, but he is making up for it. And again, the cross they gave him tonight was superb for that. So yeah,
he's been wonderful.
I agree. I think we can forgive him for the penalty miss now. I think that was a rush of blood to the head. It was stupid as the day is long, but he's learned from that, and he's certainly not let that affect him. His performances. In fact, maybe it has affected his performances and actually driven him on to be, better. Had he scored it, he might have got a bit complacent. Who knows? But he's definitely not let his head drop, and he is just showing how talented he is. And I just hope that he has the longevity for the course of this, what is a increasingly weird season.
And let's not forget actually who scored the goal. For someone to score a header like that, I would never have thought Cavallero would have scored that. I was really quite shocked. So kudos to him as well. It's a fantastic goal. That's 2 Premier League goals for him now, actually. Lookman can't be quite selfish sometimes. I wish he'd look up more to the left and just maybe see that overlap that Robertson's offering. For instance, in the 67th minute, a few minutes before that, there was a really nice chance for Lookman took the chance, but there could have just been a little pass to Robinson there, which might have been the moment for us. Ruben Loftus-Cheek had another chance in the 77th minute. We're playing so much better after that goal. Just absolutely waves of positivity and confidence. And then Abubakar Kamara comes on, and How did you think he played? I'm going to go first to Baldo with this one.
Oh no! This is a Morgan specialty. You start with.
Yeah, but we're not going to make this.
This is Morgan's specialist subject. I bow and yield to him.
But we're not going to make this. Look, this is a fantastic point against a very, very, very good team. We're not going to make this an anti-Abubakar Kamara podcast today. We're just not doing it. I think he did. Well, Morgan, you tell me how he did first, and talk me about that looking up incident.
I think when he came onto the pitch, that first touch and piece of play that he was involved in was absolutely brilliant.
Good.
That was where it fell apart. And I don't really want to go on. We all know he should have looked up. We all know that his vision is only second to Stevie Wonder, but it's we can't focus on that. It's I came onto this, my adrenaline was pumping because we had just got that point. It was hard fought, yet we could have won it, and I was just I was ready. I wanted to launch into something, but yes, at the same time, it's been said before. I don't know what stats computer Tony Khan used to find him, but it was what it was. But at the end of the day, let's not dwell on it.
Let's not dwell on it because he did.
Otherwise, there might be some angry emails coming in again.
Well, he's the one being picked. It's not. It's Parquet is bringing him on to do a job. He comes on. He does a job. He comes on for Cavallero. He presses up top very high. I mean, I think the first mistake he made was, he lost the ball behind him for a through ball. That wasn't a great start. But the positions he got into, very good. I thought he's obviously not the brightest or the sharpest knife in the drawer. But, he was very effective for what we needed to see a game out. And it's just a shame he didn't look up to Lookman for that chance. But I'm not going to have this argument that that's 3 points that completely gone away there, because we've had penalties that we should have had. And even they're not guaranteed. You cannot, anyone cannot prove to me that Ademola Lookman would have scored a goal if Abubakar Kamara made that pass. So I can't.
He would have done, but let's not dwell on it. And the thing is with AK is that he's not a good footballer, but he feels that he is that type of player that I think with a couple of minutes to go, and you need someone strong. I don't think Cabano is that player. But, he needed someone who's, could potentially take the ball into the corner. He couldn't hold it up in the corner because the ball would shoot off into the stand somewhere. But at the same time, he is that sort of, he is an ox. And, if you don't want someone weak when you're trying to sort of, potentially go for the winner, but also defending a point. Mm-hmm. So I can see why he came on. But, yeah. My points on
I think
my previous point.
So hang on, let me put it this way. It was Abubakar Kamara's performance in defensive. It was the standard Abubakar Kamara performance. There were some moments of very well done and some moments of very
I think it was better. I think it was better than that standard one.
Exactly. Like you said, his first touch for the first thing he did was brilliant. The fact that he won us the corner late on with his hustle, very good. But at the same time, there were some bad moments. So it was the standard, maybe slightly above standard, Abubakar Kamara. He wasn't the reason we only got a draw out of this. There are many other reasons.
You can't blame a single point on a 4-minute cameo or whatever it was from AK. Yes, had it been someone else with a little bit more footballing talent, we may have got the winner at the end, but we may not have done.
Yeah.
And,
I've got to say,
who knows? But
I've got to say, I think yellow's not his colour at all. I think he looked like he put about 10 pounds over in that yellow shirt. Honestly, I thought he looked really fat for some reason.
Well, if he's been one of those self-isolating, then maybe he's just been at home, sat on his arse for the last 2 weeks. And he's just been he's just been eating, and he's come out. You could tell he had a bit of excess energy. He certainly wasn't, sluggish.
There hasn't been much action since Boxing Day. Maybe he just hasn't had a chance to work off the turkey he ate.
Maybe not.
What the whole
and the
turkey?
Rest. And the rest, mate. Oh, well, he's eating more than turkey, I'd say that. But anyway. Also, just really quickly, what is Anderson's problem with Harry Winks? Did you see him just absolutely just nudge him to the floor for no reason whatsoever? I love that. That was brilliant shithousery from him. Great stuff from Anderson. Great stuff. I thought Anderson had a very good game today.
I thought, it was a sort of defensive lineman play.
Yeah, I liked it.
I'm not sure Winks. Was it Winks? I don't know. It was
Winks, yeah.
Some scoring.
Do you know what?
Which
I really enjoyed, mate. I've really enjoyed it because I will never forgive Harry Winks for scoring that header against us in the last time we were in the Premier League, which equalised it. I think it made it 1-1 in the end.
No, it was the winner.
It was the winner.
It was the 2-1
winner.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, no, that was his comeuppance. Yeah,
fantastic. I enjoyed that. All right, good. All right then. Well, let's talk about our Parker ratings then, really quickly before we move on to a Chelsea preview. I'll go to you, Mr. Baldo.
I say he gets an 8. I mean, it was, as I said, it was the standard. There wasn't anything like revolutionary or anything tactically bad from what he did. So he gets the standard 7, but he does get an extra point or two for putting out the strong side. And given that was all the talk in the build-up and Jose Mourinho, he should apologise. He gets an extra couple of marks for that. So yeah, just for the pure poo-housery, as I like to call it, he gets an extra couple of marks. So give an 8.5.
I'm going to give an 8.5 as well. And just to add as well, sorry, Jose. And for you, Morgan, what's your rating for Parker?
I'm going to make it full house. I was thinking about a 9, then I thought, well, if we got the winner, then maybe a 9. But 8.5. I mean, the guy he's been blindsided by a fixture. Let's not beat around the bush. The Premier League fucked up there. They knew what the deal was with Aston Villa. They knew that there was a potential for this. In these weird times where fixtures may need to get swapped around here, there, and everywhere, make sure you let the teams know that they're actually considering it, or that's actually a potential, issue with a fixture coming up. And the fact is, they didn't. And we're supposed to be playing in the best league in the world with the most powerful, richest league. Yet for some reason, they could not send an email, text, or a call to say, by the way, Villa look like they're going to be unable to fulfill the fixture. You may have to play Spurs next week. And they didn't do that. And yet we managed to come out, turn it, okay, so the Parker made his point. And all the press were going, oh yeah, Parker's saying this, that, and the other, Jose saying this, that, and the other. Reality is, Parker had a point. Jose probably had a point, but I don't really care. But Parker's point was valid, and he got his team prepared and drilled whatever he needed to do, and they put out a brilliant performance. And I think getting that draw, actually, I'm going to give it a 9 because I want to be different. And I think
there you go. I thought you going that way. That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
all right,
I think it's just deserves it.
Perfect. And I've got to say as well, actually, just want to give an honorary. Well, actually, first of all, Scott Parker at one point was, throwing the ball back into play, and Eric Lamela just suddenly gave him the absolute stare, and I find myself getting quite protective over Scott Parker, and I was like, "You stop looking at me, you inbred bastard!" It's just something about him. I was just like, "Don't you look at my manager like that?" So I'm really enjoying Scott Parker. I know, how dare you? Anyway, so yeah, fantastic. And I'd like to give an honorary mention, man of the match. It'll go to Admalo Lukman or Cavallero for the equaliser, but I thought Harrison Reed, outstanding work, mate. All right, let's wrap this up and open up another package, which will be the Chelsea preview after this.
Fulham.
All right, so we have got a Chelsea game. It has been moved to Saturday now. Obviously, we love this game. Let's just go over our record against Chelsea. So the last 5 games against Chelsea all in the league. We haven't actually beaten Chelsea in 19 games. Our last win came back in March 2006. It was a 1-0 win with a 17-minute goal from Boa Morte against Mourinho's Chelsea. Since then, we had the odd draw against them, but it's mainly been losses, I'm afraid. Baldo, give me some stats at a glance for this season really quickly.
I was just really taken aback by this because I know there's been a lot of talk, this is the right time to play Chelsea. They're not quite the same as they were last year. But I think these stats that are excellent stats, one of my favourite stats that he's ever pulled up, personally, has been brilliant. They are actually doing better than they were last season in terms of goals scored per game and goals conceded per game. So last year they scored 1.8. This year they're scoring 1.9. Last year they conceded 1.4, and this season are conceding 1.2. So they're actually doing much better than they were last year, but are somehow 3 points worse off after 17 games than they were last year. So it's one of those, the table and the result aren't always the thing. There needs to be some context to it. So whilst they may look as if they're down at the moment and struggling, and there was talk about Lampard under pressure and how they're scouting for other managers. Also, don't let that be the narrative going into it. Chelsea are still a very, very good side and can cause us problems. But that being said, Liverpool and Man City and Tottenham are all very good sides going, and we managed to get 2 points out of the 3 games we played them. So it's not all doom and gloom, but at the same time, it's not going to be a complete walkover from us at any stage.
Well, it's an interesting one. I mean, I remember Jurgen Klopp saying last year that the Chelsea team that Lampard had last season reminded him very much of his young Dortmund team, and because of all the kids that were playing. And it was a very, very good... I mean, I'm not a Chelsea fan, of course. None of us are. We hate them. But I have to say, I thought some of their football last season was fantastic. And it's interesting, with all these new signings, it's sort of like a more successful version of what we did in 18-19, isn't it, Morgs? They've added so many new glossy players into the pot that it's just taking a long time to gel. And they've sort of ruined that momentum of the young guns, turning heads and making people rethink about Chelsea's academy and just general transfer policy.
Obviously, they had their transfer ban, which they managed to make the best of, because they've, any team that's not able to sign players generally struggles because they need a bit of a fresh face around the around the camp team. Chelsea have so many players on their books, and this is why their loan list is so excessive. And it was good, from a watching English football point of view, to see them blood in quite a few of their youngsters last season. But now they obviously, they've got 2 years worth of transfer funds to throw around the place. It's, they brought in some good players, but, they are taking time to blood in. I mean, Timo Werner was good at Leipzig, but I mean, he was a bit hit and miss as well. Kai Havertz, he's a very good talent. And I think, it'll take time for him to come good, but I think he's definitely an interesting player to watch. And, you still have, the other players who were sort of coming into the team last season. But I think one of the good things that won't be there is N'Golo Kante, who's suspended for the game, because he's that Anguissa, isn't he, in midfield for them? He drives a lot of their midfield. And
I'd say he's more of Harrison Reed in a lot of ways, actually. The way he's
kind of a mixture, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's sort of like he puts in the hard challenges, but he also runs with the ball. And they said, what was it? What was it? Was it Leicester? I think it was like 75% of the world is covered by ocean. The other 25% is covered by N'Golo Kante, because it just got he's just that sort of absolute ball of energy, and not having him against us, I think will be it'll be good for us anyway. And whether they go with someone like Tammy Abraham, who's dangerous, he hasn't been great, but he's dangerous. Giroud, you can't. You've got to be careful of him. He's experienced. He knows where the net is. Yeah, and he doesn't miss. I mean, where we're able to exploit them is at the back, and that's our problem. Is that we're having trouble exploiting anyone at the back. So I think I would, we should have a very quick look at the formation and and the team, because I think there are areas that we can hit them. But we need to be so clinical, and hopefully Mitro might be back for it, because I think we need a striker for this game, because they do have weaknesses there, and if we sort of can exploit them, then we can certainly get 1 or 2 goals in this game. So,
Would you change your formation for this one, Baldo, out of interest? Would you put Mitrovic on, or surely we shouldn't really be... I'm not disagreeing with you, Morgs, by the way. I'm just for the sake of...
I wouldn't say change formation, change the team.
Change the team, right? Okay, fair enough. In which case, maybe have Mitrovic instead of Ruben Loftus-Cheek for this, and then you've got Bobby Reed beside him pressing a bit more. Something like that, potentially. I see.
Yeah.
I see. Any player in particular you think you should be watching out for in this game, Baldo? I mean, we've got Havertz and Werner scored lots of goals against Morecambe. Shock horror. But, I mean, I know it's Morecambe, but now they're on the actual score sheet. Maybe we should actually start being worried about them now they're not actually in a drought.
No, I think they're still a very, very dangerous team. Even as I said, even if they haven't been 100% this season, so there is still something to be worried about. And I think those players on their day can be quite a handful. So they are absolutely going to be players to look out for. Just hang on, just in terms of your thing, you said Mitrovic. I think Mitrovic could be one of those games for him, because I've not been quite, as much as I said Chelsea have improved defensively, I'm still not quite there in terms of their centre backs. So I think this could be one of those games where you want him to bully the other team. I think this could be one of those games you want him back for.
But I mean, we just don't know when he's going to be back, really, do we? I mean, if we're talking about lineups we'd like to see, I couldn't tell you if we should change it much to what we've had tonight, because, I mean, he wasn't even on the bench this evening. Am I right with that? I don't think he was.
Well, he wasn't, but I think he had a slight. I mean, he had to play for 120 minutes at the weekend. At least 15 of those were with a bit of a muscle strain by the looks of it. So hopefully it was just a precautionary rest. Given the fact that, obviously there's another game in 3 days' time. But I think if he is able, I think, Thiago Silva and Kurt Zuma are their centre-backs. Neither are, I don't think Zuma's particularly quick, but, Thiago Silva's 36 years old. And yes, he's an excellent footballer, and, has a proper, one of the best footballing brains potentially in the world. But, Mitro's lack of pace may not be the worst thing. Yes, we do need this pacey striker, Tony Khan. But yes, it's very much a case of Mitro may not be, a bad option in this, because we do need that clinical finisher. And fair enough. His finishing hasn't been clinical of late, but he's the best we have.
Yeah, and we don't. I mean, Ben Chilwell as well is a fantastic left wing back for them, and I feel like he could really cause some damage. And we don't want him to be essentially do what Reguilon did for Kane. I mean, he's already bagged himself, I believe, 4 assists this season. He's back from injury now. He scored 2 goals as well. So I mean, it's a settled back four, but it's like you say, it's not the best in quality when it comes to their centre back pairing, because I feel like they can be exploited for their lack of speed. Also, I mean, just Frank doesn't know his best 11 yet, really. Still, does he? Arguably, I would say. I mean, all these 6 new. Sometimes he's playing Hudson-Odoi, sometimes he's not. And then is it Mount, or is it? Yeah, it's always a bit of a conundrum every time. I'd like your thoughts on Frank quickly. I mean, do you think? I don't know. I don't want to get this into a silly conversation, but I do feel like. I like to think that Scott Parker's the better manager here, and he can actually come up with some good cunning plan. I don't know. I'm sort of, Frank Lampard couldn't win a fucking playoff final, and Scott Parker, he's landed the Chelsea job, just irks me for some reason. Don't know why.
I think what we're seeing at the moment is a lot of teams going down the Barcelona and Real Madrid model of bringing in managers who know the club and who know the ethos of the club. And you have it with Man U, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Clearly not the best manager for the job, but doing a great job at the moment. We got obviously, and then Frank Lampard at Chelsea. He was nowhere near ready for that job, but he knows Chelsea, and he is the head coach. He's not the manager. If you need a manager, that's where old school Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, or whatever come in, and they rule the roost over the whole club. Head coaches these days are there to look after the first team, and sort of a bit of the maybe sort of the youths and things like that. But it's all about footballing matters on the pitch. It's so different these days, and I think he was not ready for the Chelsea job if it was a full manager job. But at the same time, he has lived and breathed Chelsea for years, and I think he's come into it. And last year, I think he did very well. This year, it's been a bit hit and miss. But I don't think Abramovich really will plan on sort of changing things up so quickly. He might bring in some more experience. I think I'm hearing rumours about Avram Grant coming in as his assistant. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Yeah. But the reality is, Grant doesn't want to go off. Not Grant. Abramovich doesn't want to go paying off Lampard. I don't know how long his contract is for, but at the moment they're pushing for Champions League spots, and I don't think there's going to be any massive changes. So.
Okay, all right, and changes on the pitch. I mean, like I said, I don't think he knows his best 11. It's a mystery who he could have on the wings. But I mean, let's assume it's Pulisic and maybe Ziyech as well. Those are 2 very dangerous players, so we need to be looking out for them absolutely. And I mean, whether it's Giroud, Abraham, or Werner, I mean, it's going to be a tricky game. Like, I think I completely agree with Baldo. We shouldn't go into this thinking that we can. I mean, we should be confident for sure after the games we played against top 6 sides, but we should definitely be wary. I mean, I don't know, Baldo. Do you think could we get excited? Could this be us getting a win over Chelsea for the first time in ages and sacking Frank Lampard, their hero? It'd be quite fun, wouldn't it?
I mean, it would be fun, but I think if you're looking for the time for us to be beating Chelsea, I don't think it's going to be this time, because I think the main goal is probably going to be to get a draw, as it has been for most of the past couple of weeks. So I wouldn't expect it to be any different than that. Now, I'll give my early score prediction. I think it'll be 1-1 again, just because I don't see us changing anything drastically for this game, and it will just play out as it has been for the past couple of weeks. So that's what I think. So we might be able to get a draw. If we get a win, it will probably be because Chelsea were bad, and Thiago Silva, for instance, slipped up, did a John Terry in effect, or did a Steven Gerrard, whichever way you want to use it, to let Lookman in to score the winner. It will be because of them rather than anything that we do.
All right,
I'm going to go with pessimistic bastard.
Well, is he being? He sounds pessimistic, but
is it pessimistic or is it just realism? It's just realism.
Is there a difference?
If it's no, hold on. If it's realistic that we're going to get a draw against Chelsea, I would take that. I think that's a good result.
It was the manner of the draw. I mean, the draw tonight wasn't because Spurs fucked up. They played their tactics and we took advantage of it, but we had to take advantage of it. And I thought, if we can, I think we earned our draw. We didn't just come up upon it with a bit of pot luck. And I think, yes, we may be aiming for a draw again, and then same again against Man U. But a point against these teams are great, and then we really have to sort of, use that impetus to get the 3 points against the lower teams. But I think if we keep going in the manner in which we played the second half today, and obviously we started the first half well as well. I think if we play the second half as we did today, we will, earn our point. And I don't think it needs to be because of a mistake. I think if we are just able to turn this sort of issue with finishing around, then we can get a couple of goals off our own merit, not just because of mistakes made.
Right. And with that in mind, mate, what's your score prediction?
I'll probably lose 2-0.
Excellent.
No,
Excellent.
I'm gonna go with a 2-1 win. I'm just gonna go really over the top optimistic, and that's not because I've been drinking tonight.
Okay, 2-1 win. You say, yeah? Okay, yeah. I'm gonna match you. I think it's gonna be a 2-1 win. I think we're gonna get Lampard sacked and break their hearts. I mean, we'll get Lampard. I mean, we made John Terry cry and end his career, for God's sake. This is going to be brilliant. We're going to get Frank Lampard sacked. It's going to be wonderful. I think 2-1, absolutely.
A full house, isn't it?
I think that's a full house. Yeah, well,
just so before we sort of do leave it or move on, I say I've had sort of on Twitter we had a question, which I think we should answer. And it's from Hughes, who's based in Beverly Hills, according to his Twitter profile. He said, interesting to hear what we think should be our first 11. Do we stick with the 3 or 4 at the back? And is Tete or Bobby the best right wing back option at the moment? And I guess for the Chelsea lineup, do we think Bobby de Cordova-Reid is a better option against Ben Chilwell down that flank because of his energy and fitness?
Potentially, but we did notice tonight, I would say that Tete proved a lot to a lot of people. There's legs on him. He's got a motor. Do you know what I mean? I think I wouldn't change the wing back position for Tete. I think Tete did just fine for this evening. I think he'd be fine with Chilwell. I want to see Bobby further forward. I mean, just that he was. It was so good to see him further forward. I know he didn't score tonight, but some of his movement in the final third was absolutely fantastic. I think we want to see Tete, and I think we want to see Rumser. We keep the back four as it is. We maybe, if Mitro's fit, we can maybe stick him in there somehow. But I think we just don't change anything around, really. Are you in the same frame of mind as me, Morgs?
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving the 5-3-2, 3-5-2, however we're sort of framing it, 3-4-3 even. I think I think, as we said before, sort of some people see it as defensive, but I think it's actually a really sort of good way of attacking. And I think, we should continue with the 3 at the back because that solidifies our back line. And I think, Aina, Anderson and Adebayo have been brilliant together. And I think having sort of those wing backs with the energy to bomb up and down has been great. And I think it's just it's an all-round solid formation for us at the moment. And it very much fits our players, Peter accepted. But I think it's very sort of, it is one of those, it's something that's clicked for us. Whereas the other formations of the past haven't so much.
Nice one. Well, there's only one thing left to do, really, guys. And I'm going to go to each of you with this. Baldo, I'll go to you first. can you just please say sorry, Jose?
No, shove it up your ass.
All right. Morgan, say sorry to Jose.
No, I'm going to say what Baldo said. Shove it up your ass, Jose.
Well, I'm going to say sorry. Sorry, Jose. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to my lovely co-host. Thank you for listening. Thank you for bearing with us. That was a sort of, a rough sort of curveball of a show. We didn't really have much research of it. It's lovely for you to be listening. We'll be back. We'll be back with a reaction to Chelsea with Frenchie and a couple other people. I'm not sure yet. Thank you very much indeed. Stay safe.
Fulham.